the mid to late 1970s, video games were mostly simple LED handheld gaming devices or Pong consoles, both of which were fairly limited. In the case of a Pong console, if you didn't have a second player, you were very limited to what you could do with one, if you could play it at all. My best guess is that 80 to 90% of the dedicated consoles of the era were in fact Pong consoles. Atari did make a few alternatives, however, including one called Stunt Cycle, which had a big pair of handlebars on the front of it. But what we're really here to talk about today is Atari's Video Pinball. While more people out there will probably know of the Atari 2600 game called Video Pinball from 1980, a game that I have a ton of nostalgia for, having played a lot of it when I was little. But a few years prior to that, there was also an arcade machine of the same title, and this, what I consider to be one of the coolest dedicated game consoles of the time. The Atari Video Pinball unit has a model number of C-380. It came in 2 different styles and has 7 different game types. The example that I have is the Sears Telegames version, which is based on the first version of the Atari model. Atari had a deal with Sears to sell products under the Telegames brand name in their stores and catalogs. All of the Telegames products were the same thing as their Atari counterparts, just with different cosmetics and names. Here, the Sears Telegames version simply bears the moniker Pinball Breakaway. Both systems have the same games, but 2 of the 3 have different titles. What is called Rebound on the Atari version is simply called Basketball here. The other game to get a different name is Breakaway. On the Atari versions of the console, it is called the more fitting Breakthrough. To prevent any confusion, I think I'm going to stick with the Atari naming conventions here. Not unlike the classic Pong consoles, the sound effects come right from the console, just your standard bleeps and bloops, which are ever so common of the era. But unlike many Pong clones, this one is in color, which is a pretty cool thing. While there are 7 game choices, 2 of which are just variations on the others. You can choose to play either of the pinball games with either traditional flippers using the flipper buttons on either sides of the console, or with a paddle in the style of a breakout type game. Most of the games use a paddle, and you can control that with the knob on the face of the console. Personally, I think the pinball games are a little bit more fun than the pin paddle versions. To me, they're just faster paced. And then there's Rebound. This is a game I really can't comment on, as my example of this console is really showing its age, and the serve button sticks a little bit, making this one pretty much unplayable. Maybe one of these days I'll try to fix it, open up, see if I can give it a good cleaning. Perhaps that'll help. Lastly, there are the 2 breakout variations, Breakthrough and Breakout. The only difference between these 2 is the space between the rows of blocks in the playfield on Breakthrough. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is an option on the cartridge version of either regular or Super Breakout for the 2600. You can't get any more straightforward than either of these 2, and they play exactly how you'd expect. When you get down to it, there's really only 3 or 4 unique games on this console. For the most part, you can find things that play similarly, perhaps a lot more fun on the Atari 2600 for a lot cheaper. But ignoring that, if you're into these dedicated consoles, the granddaddies of the plug-and-play systems, this is one of the ones to get, especially since you do not need a player 2 to play it. If you're an Atari collector, this is probably already on your wish list. If not, it should be. Hope you've enjoyed this review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.